Alright, so this Knife Thoughts video is going to be on this knife, and as you can see, this is the Ryder Sous Chef. And as the box says, it's a locking pocket chef prep knife. And then this is model number RR2196. And this is a knife that I got because it's an example that Ryder is still doing these kind of out there, interesting knives that you don't see from a lot of other companies. And also, I do, go camping and go outdoors and stuff, and sometimes I thought it might be nice to have a dedicated chef or cooking knife, food prep knife for those situations. So this is the knife, and it is a large knife. I will show you it compared to, just because it's what I have in my pocket, a Spyderco Caribbean. You can see the Sous Chef is longer closed than the Caribbean, and it does have about a 4.3 inch blade of 440A steel. So it is not a small knife. I think it's about 5¼ inches closed. And it has this really cool kind of Santoku type or modified sheet foot style blade with what I believe are called Granton. I'm sure that I'm not pronouncing that correctly. I am not a chef. I have no formal, cooking training, but it's these scallops or cutouts here on both sides of the blade, and the purpose of these is to help make food not stick to the blade because there's less surface area for it to stick to. So it's very clearly designed to be a food prep knife. And I'm going to show you real quick this blade shape compared to an actual, sorry for the reflection there, an actual chef knife or a kitchen knife. So this is, just a cooking knife that I have. My brother gave it to me as a wedding present, and it has pretty much the same blade shape. The Ryder has a little bit more of a point to it, but same Granton, I think, or Granton, I don't know how you say it again, but the same edge and the same pretty much blade shape to it. So it's cool to see that they, did kind of keep that utility blade shape for food prep. The other interesting thing about this knife, and something that they really didn't need to do, I think, on a food prep knife, but it's very easily one-hand openable. It has this kind of interesting triangular shape in the blade, shaped cutout in the blade to open it, and you can very much open it with one hand without any trouble, really. Now, one-hand closing, because it is a back lock in the sense that the unlock is all the way at the butt of the handle here, it isn't super duper easy to close one-handed. You can kind of shake it part way closed and then close it the rest of the way, but definitely easy to open one-handed. So if you ever really quickly needed to cut some onions up or something, you definitely could. Speaking of the construction, it's pretty well constructed. It came not perfectly, but well enough centered, not rubbing the sides at all. No real gaps really, and it locks up nice and solidly, no blade play in any direction, and it's pretty smooth opening too. The handles are micarta, I believe. They might be G10. It is G10. They have G10 handles, but it's nice looking G10. You can see some some layers to it there, and they're relatively well done. Some gaps, between the bolsters and the handles that are filled in with glue, it looks like, but nothing too extreme, and the pins are well done. There's no cracks or anything like that. It does have a lanyard hole. Not sure exactly why you'd need a lanyard on it, but it has one. And then it has this RR stamp or engraving on the bolsters. And one thing I want to point out about this is that I really wish that Ryder would use this RR bolster stamp on their Barlows. Right now on their Barlows, they use kind of like a slanted R, and it's a little bit busy looking to me. I think this looks great and honestly is kind of reminiscent of TC Barlows or the Northfield Barlows that Great Eastern Cutlery makes. And I think that this is a much better look and would look really good on the Barlows that Rough Ryder does. So I actually messaged Smoky Mountain Knife Works to suggest that, and I would love to see that. But anyway, it is pretty well made, and I have used this knife for some food prep. I used it camping, and it works relatively well. It is probably not as thinly ground as a real kitchen knife. So this is a relatively long knife, so hopefully I can show it to you here. So there's the edge on this, and certainly custom kitchen knives might get more thin than that. But here's the edge on the Rough Ryder. It is actually thinner up here. And this one's not the smallest knife either, so I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but it's not as thin as maybe it could be behind the edge, but it cuts well, and I think it definitely works as well as a normal folding pocket knife does for food prep, if not better. Another interesting thing about this knife is that it does have a blade stop. So if you look in there, and hopefully, yeah, you can see it right there. There's actually a pin that stops the blade, and I think the reason for that is because it has this edge below the handle, which is something that you see on food prep knives, right? The edge comes below the handle or below the grip, and that allows you to, cut all the way to the edge on a cutting board. Now, not that you can get all the way to the edge on a cutting board with this knife, because it does come a little bit below the handle, but not necessarily as much as an actual kitchen knife. But I think it's cool that they added that feature in, or at least as much as they could, to make it more like an actual kitchen knife. And then because of that, I think they needed to add this blade stop pin. So it's a cool knife. It is definitely a knife that has some novelty factor to it. There's probably not a whole lot of situations where you can take a folding knife this big that if you really needed to, you couldn't also take, a little utility kitchen knife. But it's pretty cool. It's pretty well made. And at only $17, it's not going to break the bank. It's something that you can throw in your camp bag or whatever. I've been keeping this in one of the drawers at our house and use it as a steak knife and things like that. It's something you can get relatively inexpensively, not worry about losing too much, and get some enjoyment out of it. So it's an interesting knife, one that, like I said, I have been enjoying, and if it's something you're interested in, definitely check it out. If you've enjoyed this video, go ahead and like it and subscribe to my channel, and you can hit the bell for notifications so you know when I post new videos. Also check out my social media at Knife Thoughts, Facebook, Instagram, things like that, and my website, knifethoughts.com, where I post articles on knives like this and knife-related topics. And last but not least, don't forget to go out and do good.